The wedding venue was breathtaking, soft white drapes danced in the breeze, and fairy lights sparkled under the golden hour sun. Laughter and clinking glasses floated through the air as I stood near the back, taking in the scene. My son, Ethan, looked radiant in his tuxedo, his arm looped with his bride's. Ava was everything he'd ever dreamed of, smart, kind, beautiful. They looked like something out of a fairy tale. I watched them, unseen almost, like I had been for much of his life. Single parenting hadn't been in my plans, but when his father walked out, I didn't blink. I got 2 jobs, skipped vacations, turned down every personal opportunity that came my way, all so Ethan could have everything. Soccer practice, piano lessons, birthday parties, even the nights he cried and I stayed up with him till morning, it was always just me. I smiled politely at guests, some of whom I recognized, some I didn't. There were people here I hadn't seen since Ethan's childhood, and some I'd never met, like her parents, who gave me a brief nod when we were introduced. As the evening rolled on, I took my seat at the designated parents' table. One empty chair was beside me, his father's. Ethan had extended an invitation out of politeness, but I knew better than to expect a miracle. Then the MC tapped the mic, and it was time for speeches. Ava's father spoke first, warm, emotional, heartfelt. I clapped along with everyone else. Then came the best man, Ethan's best friend from college. His speech was funny, full of inside jokes. The crowd was eating it up. Finally, Ethan stood, holding the mic with both hands. My heart swelled. "Thank you, everyone, for being here today," he began. "This has been the happiest day of my life. I want to take a moment to thank a few people who helped me become the man I am." I leaned forward slightly. This was it. He went on, thanking his coach from high school, his college professor, Ava's parents for accepting him so lovingly into their family. And finally, Ethan said, smiling, "There's someone I owe so much to, someone who stepped up when they didn't have to. Who was always there, who treated me like a son, even though they weren't my parent by blood." My hands froze. My breath caught. "I want to thank Michelle," he said, turning toward a woman in the front row. Michelle. My ex-husband's sister. She had babysat Ethan occasionally, sure, and sent birthday cards. But she hadn't raised him. She hadn't made sacrifices. She hadn't cried behind closed doors trying to figure out how to stretch one paycheck across 3 weeks. The applause echoed around me. She stood, tearful, hugging him. I felt invisible. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something deeper, a profound, aching sadness. Like I had been erased from my own story. As I sat in that chair, my fingers curling tightly around the cloth napkin, a quiet voice whispered inside me, "Say something." The MC glanced at me. "And now, Ethan's mother would like." I gripped the microphone with trembling hands, steadying my breath. The silence in the room was sharp, expectant. Faces turned toward me, some curious, some sympathetic, most unaware of the storm swirling inside my chest. Ethan's eyes held mine, still beaming, still proud. He didn't realize what he had done. Not yet. I forced a smile, though my lips felt stiff. "Thank you," I said quietly. "Thank you for letting me speak." I looked at Michelle, still dabbing her eyes, and then back to Ethan. "It's a beautiful day. You both look radiant." My voice cracked just a little on that word. "And as your mother, Ethan, it fills me with pride to see you standing here, beginning this new chapter with someone who clearly makes you incredibly happy." A polite smattering of claps followed. I swallowed hard. "There's something about weddings," I said, letting the microphone lower slightly, my tone softening. "They remind us where we've been. Who helped us get here. The people we hold in our hearts." I saw Ethan nod, his arm still around Ava. "And sometimes," I continued, "we forget parts of the story. Not because we mean to. Just because life has a way of rushing forward, and memory gets blurry in the light of joy." The room quieted even more. Even the servers paused. I took a breath. "Ethan," I said, my voice louder now, clearer. I remember the day I brought you home from the hospital. It was snowing. I was so scared, your dad had just left, and I didn't know if I could do it alone. But I did. We did. You and me. His smile faltered. I remember making dinosaur-shaped sandwiches for your lunchbox when I couldn't afford real toys. I remember staying up with you all night when you had the flu and calling in sick to a job I couldn't afford to lose. I remember selling my car so you could go on that school trip to DC because I knew how much it meant to you. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I remember every scraped knee, every piano recital, every tear you tried to hide after your first heartbreak. I remember all of it. And I never once asked for thanks. Ethan looked stunned now. His smile was gone. Ava reached for his hand. I didn't do it to be thanked. I did it because I loved you. Because I love you. And that will never change. I paused. You could have heard a pin drop. But today, when you stood up and thanked everyone who helped shape you, and forgot the person who gave up everything to raise you, I won't lie. That hurt. Gasps were quiet, but they were there. Michelle looked like she wanted to disappear. I don't need a spotlight. I don't need applause. But I won't stand quietly while someone else wears a crown built from my sacrifices. My eyes burned, but no tears fell. I wouldn't let them. I'm proud of the man you've become, Ethan. But don't forget who helped you become him. I placed the mic down gently on the table and turned to walk back to my seat. No one clapped. Not yet. Ethan just stood there, frozen. But as I took those slow steps back, I saw something break in his expression, something real and raw. Like a dam cracking open. And I knew something inside him had shifted. After I returned to my seat, a strange kind of silence settled over the reception. Not awkward exactly, just thick. Like the room was collectively holding its breath. I stared down at my untouched glass of champagne, my heart thudding hard in my chest. My fingers trembled just enough to make the glass chime softly when I reached for it. Across the room, Ethan still stood frozen. Ava whispered something in his ear, but he didn't respond. His gaze was locked on me, his expression unreadable, caught somewhere between realization and regret. I didn't know what I expected. Applause? No. Maybe just acknowledgement. But instead, I watched him place the mic back in its stand and slowly step off the stage, murmuring something to Ava before weaving his way through the guests, toward me. I felt every eye in the room shift with him. When he stopped in front of me, I looked up. He looked so much like his father in that moment, tall, unsure, wounded and trying not to show it. But his eyes were mine. Always had been. Mom, he said, quietly enough that only I could hear. Can we talk? I nodded. He gestured for me to follow him out of the reception hall and into a small courtyard just beyond the glass doors. String lights hung from the trees, their golden glow flickering against the stone path. The night air was cool, the kind that prickled your skin and cleared your thoughts. We stood in silence for a moment. I'm sorry, he said finally. I closed my eyes. Ethan. No. Don't let me off easy. You shouldn't. His voice cracked. I don't know why I said her name. I wasn't trying to erase you. I got caught up. The speech wasn't even written. I was winging it and, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything right away. I needed him to sit in the silence. I needed to know he understood. She didn't raise me, he said, more to himself than to me. She sent a few cards. Took me to the zoo twice. But she wasn't there. You were. You always were. I met his eyes. Why her name, Ethan? He ran a hand over his face, frustrated. I don't know. Maybe because she was here a lot more after I went to college. I guess I felt guilty for losing touch with her, for not seeing the effort she was trying to make lately. And you were always strong. Always handling everything. I think I just assumed you didn't need to be acknowledged. But that's not fair. That's not right. I didn't need thanks, I said, but I deserve truth. He looked shattered. You did. You do. And I'm sorry for making you feel like you didn't matter today. You matter more than anyone. For a moment, I just looked at him. My little boy, now a man, standing there trying to piece together something he didn't even realize he'd broken. Then I reached out and pulled him into a hug. His arms tightened around me like they used to when he was small and afraid of thunderstorms. I love you, Mom, he whispered. I know, I said. We stood like that for a long time. When we finally pulled apart, his eyes were glassy. I want to fix this, he said. I want them all to know. You don't have to. I need to. And with that, Ethan walked back into the reception hall with a kind of urgency. Guests turned as he climbed the small stage again and reached for the mic once more. Hi again, he said, voice rough. Sorry. There's something I need to say. I stayed at the back, not wanting to be in the center of attention. But this time everyone turned toward me. My mom raised me alone. She worked 2 jobs to keep me fed. She gave up everything for me. And today, I failed to say her name when I should have said it first. People shifted in their seats. Some nodded, others looked at me with new eyes. I love you, Mom, he said into the mic. I'm sorry I forgot in front of everyone. But I'll never forget again. And this time, when he stepped off the stage, the applause was deafening. But I didn't need the applause. I already had everything I needed. The applause slowly faded, but the warmth of it lingered in the air like a soft blanket draped around my shoulders. I didn't expect the guests to clap, and I certainly didn't expect people, strangers, mostly, to come up to me one by one throughout the evening, offering words I never thought I'd hear at my own son's wedding. You're an incredible woman. He's lucky to have you. Your speech, it was powerful. It moved all of us. I smiled and thanked them, but inside, I was still processing. All the years I had carried so much in silence, pain, pride, exhaustion, joy, and now, somehow, that silence had cracked wide open. It wasn't about being praised. It was about being seen. I stood off to the side during the first dance, watching Ethan and Ava glide across the dance floor, wrapped in each other like 2 people building something new from scratch. Every now and then, he looked over at me and smiled, like he was still making sure I knew, you're not invisible anymore. Later, at dinner, Ava surprised me by sitting beside me. She looked nervous, fiddling with the corner of her napkin. Hi, she said. Hi, I replied gently. She exhaled slowly. I want to apologize, too. I should have said something earlier. I've heard so much about you, and I've seen what kind of mother you are. Ethan always talks about how strong you were. I guess. I assumed you knew how much he admired you. I didn't know, I said honestly. But I do now. She smiled, visibly relieved. Thank you for everything you did for him. And for letting me be part of his life now. I promise I'll take care of him. I chuckled. He's grown now. He can take care of himself, and you too. But thank you for saying that. There was a long pause. Then, quietly, she asked, would you dance with him? I blinked. What? She smiled. The mother-son dance. He was going to skip it because he thought maybe it would be awkward. But I think it would mean something now. To both of you. My heart stuttered. I hadn't expected that. The mother-son dance had come and gone in the schedule. We were well into the music and party portion of the night. But as I turned to look at Ethan, I saw him watching me again from across the room. As if he already knew what we were talking about. As if he was just waiting for me to say yes. I'd like that, I said. She nodded, stood, and walked toward the DJ. Moments later, the music changed. The soft melody of You'll Be in My Heart by Phil Collins began to play. Ethan approached me slowly, extending his hand with a sheepish grin. "May I have this dance?" I laughed, my eyes misty. "You better." We danced slowly, awkwardly at first, like neither of us had done this in years, because we hadn't. But then something shifted. He pulled me a little closer, and I rested my head gently on his shoulder, and suddenly I was back in the living room of our old apartment, swaying with a 5-year-old on my feet, laughing and spinning to music on a scratched CD player. He whispered, "Thank you. For everything." "I'd do it all over again," I replied softly. When the music faded, the room was silent for a beat, then the guests clapped again, not out of obligation, but because they felt something. A real moment. Something rare. Back at my table, I sat with a full heart. I didn't think the day would end this way. I didn't think I'd feel proud, validated, whole. But I did. And just when I thought the night had offered every gift it could, Ethan approached once more, holding a small box. "I was going to save this for later," he said, "but now seems right." He handed me the box, and I opened it slowly. Inside was a delicate gold necklace. A single charm hung from it, a tiny pair of hands holding a heart. "It's a claddagh," he said. "It means love, loyalty, and friendship. You gave me all three." Tears finally escaped my eyes. I held the necklace, overwhelmed. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "You deserve more than this," he said. "But it's a start." It was more than enough. That night, as the reception wound down and the guests filtered out with tired smiles and full hearts, I walked back to my car beneath a sky littered with stars. And for the first time in years, I felt like the center of my own story again. The next morning, sunlight spilled across my kitchen table as I sipped coffee from my favorite chipped mug. The bouquet Ethan had given me the night before sat in a vase nearby, its blooms still fresh, their fragrance filling the quiet room. The house felt still. Peaceful. Like it had finally exhaled. My phone buzzed. A photo from the wedding, Ethan and me during the mother-son dance. His head bent slightly toward mine, both of us smiling. The caption below it, sent by him, "My first dance will always belong to you." I stared at it longer than I meant to. Not because I was sad. But because I felt whole. That night, after everything had unfolded, after the speech, the apology, the dance, the necklace, I had driven home in silence. No music. No thoughts racing through my head like they usually did. Just a deep sense of calm. I didn't raise Ethan expecting gratitude. I never once thought, one day he'll thank me for this. I only thought, he needs me. I'm all he has. So I have to give him everything. But yesterday, he gave something back I didn't realize I needed, my voice. My place. My truth, spoken out loud for the world to hear. I wasn't just his mother in the shadows. I was the woman who showed up when no one else did. And he finally saw that. The front door creaked open a few hours later. I didn't need to look up. I heard his footsteps. "Hey," Ethan called out. "Hope it's okay I came by." I turned and smiled. "Always." He stepped into the kitchen with a grocery bag. "Brought breakfast. Ava's with her mom for a bit. Thought I'd stop by, just us." He began pulling out items, bagels, cream cheese, orange juice, and my favorite, blueberry scones. "You remembered," I said. He grinned. "Of course I did." We sat down together, just like we used to. For a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. Between bites and laughter, we talked, not about the wedding, not about the speech, but about small things. Life. His new job. Her quirky aunt. It was easy. Comfortable. And when he stood to leave, he hugged me tight. "I love you, Mom," he said. "And I'll keep saying it. Not just when there's a microphone." I nodded, my voice thick with quiet emotion. That's all I ever wanted. After he left, the house was quiet again. But it no longer felt empty, Because my story didn't end with being left alone to raise a child. It didn't end with a forgotten name in a wedding speech. It continued, with truth, with healing, and with a voice that finally got to speak. And in that quiet, I knew. I had raised my son alone. And now, finally, he saw me. Really saw me. And that changed everything. Forever.